Alright, so I felt I really had to see this animated movie just to see what the buzz is all about. And I saw it yesterday and I thought it was really great. And honestly, it might be my favorite animated film of 2015. So, Shaun the Sheep is an animated film created by the creators of Wallace and Gromit. Now, in Shaun the Sheep, there's a sheep named Shaun, and he just wants to get out of the daily routine that they're all stuck in. He just wants to have fun and a good time. So he devises a plan to put the farmer to sleep and deal with the dog so that the sheep can just roam free and just have a really fun time at the farm. Well, this fun day goes awry when somehow the farmer gets caught into the city, and by certain means I won't spoil, is unable to leave the city. So now it's up to the sheepdog and all the sheep to go find the farmer and bring him back to the farm, because Shaun is realizing they can't live without the farmer. He buys all the food and all that sort of stuff. Otherwise, it's just complete chaos at the farm. That's Shaun the Sheep in a nutshell, and it's a very fun adventure, and it's a very witty and comical animated film. Now here's the thing, I'm not a big fan of Wallace and Gromit. Honestly, I've never seen any of the Wallace and Gromit films. I have seen Chicken Run, which is ultimately in my top 50 films of 2000, but ultimately I don't like it as much as everyone else. I feel it's more of a 3.5 star for me out of 5. Shaun the Sheep is a totally different story, however, and it's easily my favorite out of those two films. What Shaun Sheep has going for it is it's very funny, it's very witty, very creative, and it is just a fun, good movie. Another thing you have to understand going into this film is that it's a very visual, story-driven film. But the difference with Shaun the Sheep is that there is literally no dialogue in the film except for some of the music. There is some sort of talking, and it's not quite minion speech, but it's a little gibberish and with British accents. The farmer almost sounds like he could be really a British speaker that just happens to mumble his words in a way that makes it very hard to understand. So honestly, there's really no dialogue in the entire movie, just gibberish, but you can understand what is going on, and it emphasizes the visual storytelling in this film. There might be a few things that younger audience might not understand, but it's nothing that parents can't explain to their kids really quickly. Yeah, there is a lot of clever, very humorous points within the movie, and while it's not a movie where I felt like I was laughing out loud completely the entire time, it was one of those movies that, for the most part, I had a smile on my face the entire time, and I was chuckling and just having a fun time with it. There's a lot of little great random comedic moments that are really visual and very amazing. It's one of those things where it doesn't explain the joke, you just get it by visually watching it. But I've never been a big fan of clay animation, and honestly, I was very impressed with the animation in Shaun the Sheep. I thought it was breathtakingly beautiful, and I loved the design of the sheep and the characters. Quite honestly, I think this is an animated film that older audience might actually like more than kids. There's a lot of movie references, a lot of more adult-themed references throughout the movie. Nothing sexual, nothing dirty, nothing like some of the other uncomfortable references that other cartoons might have. But there's certain things in it. Let's give you a little example. During this prison scene, well, it's like a prison scene. One of the sheep does get caught, and the dog gets caught, and they're put in the pound because there's this evil, well, not evil, I guess he's doing his job. He's just overzealous with his job, but he's an animal catcher. And so as they're going through the dog pound, it's almost like a prison movie, and with all the characters and all the pets acting like prisoners, stereotypical prisoners that you'd expect. And one of them is a cat, and he's got a cone around his neck, and this movie reference to Silence of the Lambs in there when the cat makes the sound that Anthony Hopkins makes after he talks about fava beans. You know, the I can't do it. I can't do it right. But he makes that sound, and there's a reference to Silence of the Lambs in Shaun of the Sheep. There's a lot of other little references and a lot of other more adult-themed humor throughout, but nothing to a point where it would make you uncomfortable to bring your kid to, or make the kid question, well, what does that mean? Now, even though I don't think Inside Out is an excellent film, ultimately I still felt it was going to be my favorite animated film of 2015. I was still skeptical that Shaun the Sheep would be that much fun for me, but ultimately I have to say I like it more than Inside Out, and I was thinking, okay, well, it's not going to be as good of a family film as Paddington though, and quite frankly I think I like it more than Paddington now. One of the things that Shaun of the Sheep does that I wish Inside Out did, and I wish it would have done better for me, there's a emotional punch in the film. You know Pixar is great. Pixar is good at doing this where they have an animated film, it's fun, it's funny, it's great, and then suddenly there gets to a sad moment where it really hits you. It really becomes emotional and great. Inside Out had two moments where it could have been like that, but unfortunately it wasn't for me. I know plenty of other people did have a tear come to their eye during two moments in the film, but ultimately it was too predictable to the point where I saw it coming and I really didn't get emotionally punched. Shaun the Sheep, however, does have that moment, and I was completely surprised, and I thought, you know what? This is easily my favorite family film of 2015 so far. Now, even though it is my favorite family film of 2015 and my favorite animated film so far this year, it's still not perfect. There are still a few moments where it did get very predictable, and that's not that bad of a that's not that big of a deal, but it's still, there's scenes where you start watching the scene and you've seen this done hundreds of times in other cartoons or other mediums, and you start realizing, you know what, I think it's going to go this way, the scene's going to end like this, and then it does end like that, and you're just like, oh, okay. That's not to say that every scene ends like that. There are some moments where it uses the cliche and then turns it around in a different ending for that scene, but for the most part it does get really predictable. In the end, I think Shaun the Sheep is an excellent film, and I understand why there's so much buzz around this film. I can understand why one of the schmoes actually really enjoys this film. I found it to be incredible as well, and I'm going to give Shaun the Sheep 4.5 stars, but it's more like a 4 3/4 to be honest, but I don't do quarters, you know. So, have you seen Shaun the Sheep? What did you think about it? Go ahead and comment. If you haven't, what is your favorite family-friendly animated film of all time? As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was just my opinion.